All right, welcome to today's show and today's video. My name is Jimmy Cadillo. I am hoping that you are having a wonderful, blessed day today. The big man upstairs gave us an opportunity to wake up today, and we are going to make the most of it today. With that being said, what I want to talk about today is something that is specifically happening currently right now, not to me, but to my son who is now 13 years old. If you haven't seen some of my other videos, my son plays competitive soccer. He's now 13 and he plays on an MLS Next team. If you know anything about soccer, that is pretty much the high end of competitive club soccer. So with that being said, there's something currently happening that I thought might be beneficial for me to talk about. And really what we're talking about here is really the difference between what I would like to call the A players and then really everybody else. And again, we can certainly go into and split up, the difference between A players, B players, C players, and so forth and so on. And we can certainly do that. But right now, for the sake of this particular video and for the sake of his current situation as a 13-year-old MLS Next soccer player, I want to talk about really the difference between the A player or the starter on the team and really the bench player or the BCD player specifically, right? So let me paint a picture of what is happening. So my son came from rec quite a while back ago. So he made the transition from rec soccer into club soccer when he was roughly about 8 or so. And the reason that we made the transition was because he had gotten to a point in rec soccer where he was going into a game and he was literally scoring 7 goals, 8 goals, 9 goals, 10 goals per game on his rec team. Really, the wife and I kind of looked at it, and all our boys have always been into sports. And I actually had a long conversation with one of my business bankers today about the reason why it is so important for, in my opinion, young men to play sports. It really has nothing to do with the sport specifically itself. Whether you're talking about baseball, whether you're talking about American football, whether you're talking about soccer, whether you're talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, basketball, or any other sport that you currently can think of, all our boys have always played sports, and it's almost been a mandatory, unspoken of rule at our house that all our boys automatically play sports. Not because of the sports itself, but really all of the lessons that for a young man, I believe are ultimately uber important in order for them to understand what the world is going to be like for them when they get older and they get out into the real world, right? Sports teaches you things like to persevere. Sports teaches you things like to be a better team player. Sports teaches you the humbling of losing, right? Of working hard towards something and literally still not getting the outcome that you desired, even though you still put in all the work, and then being able to pick yourself up from that quote unquote failure, if you want to call it that, or the ability to the fact that you didn't get to the outcome that you wanted to, and then having to wake up again and knowing that you have to go through that exact same process even better again, so that you can then again achieve the outcome that you want, which is either winning the game or winning the championship and so forth and so on. So anyways, and again, we can make a video specifically about that whole deal. And again, I've raised now 3 boys. And again, every one of them has been a major player in a sports environment, specifically because of those life lessons. But anyways, we felt that our son at 8 years old had gotten to a point where he felt like he was the king of the mountain, right? He would come into every game and he's like, hey, I'm the best player. I'm gonna score 5, 6, 7, 8 goals. And we got to a point where we started to see that he got to a place of not only complacency, but really some of that kind of negative ego started to take over, right? Like, in order for you to be a superstar, you gotta have some ego. Like, anyone that tells you otherwise has never been in sports. You have to have some ego in order to be one of the top players or in the top 1-2% of players in your particular sport or on your team. I'm okay with that. But when that ego starts to turn into, a form of, I guess, cockiness and arrogance, that is when that becomes toxic, right? I'm okay with ego as long as you understand that you got to keep it in check, right? As long as you understand that you can't get to a place or an environment where it starts to be cocky and arrogance, then it becomes problematic. Really, your ego in sports or really in anything you do really can't get to that point, because now you are talking about a place where is not going to be a good place for you. What you want to do is you want that ego to turn into confidence, right? You want the reps to turn into confidence. And there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance. And the differences between those two, although are kind of separated by a very fine line, the outcome to those things are vastly different. But anyways, so he had gotten to a point where we thought it was turning into arrogance instead of confidence, and we felt like that was a bad place. Anyway, so we went ahead and signed him up for club soccer, and he went from, again, mission accomplished. He went from being the top guy on the team, on a rec team, scoring 5, 6, 7, 8 goals, to being the worst kid on the team by a landslide. These club soccer boys at 8 years old were running circles around him. It wasn't even close. And he literally went of 2 years from the moment he was 8 and 9, where he sat on the bench pretty much most of the game. He got maybe 8 to 10 minutes of playing time total in his entire, in the whole game. Yet, obviously, we were still traveling all over the place, right? It's club soccer. If anybody knows, you're going to travel, right? You're going to go to Orange County from where we are. You had 3-hour drives, 4-hour drives. You had other states. We went ahead and made those sacrifices knowing that he was either not going to play or going to play very little. But we got him back into the mode of, you got to work, right? Like right now, you are not as talented as any of the boys on the team. You don't have the skill set and the talent yet to even compete with these boys. Great. We know that. Not that we're okay with that, but the reality is that the only thing that you can do right now is you need more reps, right? So great. Well, you're not going to learn overnight, right? This is not like the Matrix, right? Where they plug you into the machine and all of a sudden, you know how to do karate at a 10th degree black belt. Life does not work that way. So we knew, hey, it was going to take you some time. So great. How do we pinch the gap, right? In other words, how do we pinch the gap from the guy that you need to get to where you are, because that gap was relatively big when he started, and how do we make that gap as small as possible without you currently having the skill set? And the answer to that is really only one thing. There's only one thing that you can do at that moment in time to try and pinch that gap. And what is that? You just got to outwork everybody, period. You got to run harder, run longer, try more. You kind of have to be like the fly that won't go away from an outside barbecue, right? Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. You go to an outside barbecue and you're eating there, and you're a 200-pound dude, eating your ribs, and that fly that is like microcosm of what you are, right? The fly views you as this massive giant and comes around trying to land on your food to get a nibble of your food, and you're swiping at this thing literally at like 80 miles an hour with your big old palm. And to the fly, you are a massive giant swiping, yet everything that you do to swipe that fly away literally goes in vain, because 2 seconds later, he is back buzzing around your food, trying to take a nibble or land on your food. And no matter how many times you swipe at him, the fly always comes back for more because it doesn't know how to quit. That is what I mean by, that's how you pinch the gap between skill level and where you are. If you don't have the skill, that is the only thing that you can do until you acquire that skill level, is you have to be willing to be the fly. You got to be the pest. You got to outwork. You got to keep coming back. You just got to show up every single day with that attitude. So great. How does that play a role into what is happening with my son? Well, so here's what's happening. Fast forward 5 years later, he's now 13, and the last 2 years, so last year, he finally became the starter. He plays right wing on his MLS Next team, and last year he made starter. Had a okay year. He certainly could have been better, but he had an okay year. And then he started this year, and again it appeared, and he did, for the most part, start all of the preseason games, and he even started right wing in our very first 2 games of the season, and we are only 6 games into the season. Okay, great. What is happening now? Well, here's what's happening. Over the last 2 or 3 games, as well as the last 2 or 3 scrimmages, all of a sudden he has not been the starting right wing for his team. He has sat on the bench and they have brought him off the bench. So interestingly enough, I always respect what the coach does. Personally, I think he's better than the player that they're starting over him. I don't even think it's close, actually. I think he's got better ball handling skills. I think he runs faster. I think that he's got a better foot. I think he's got better overall soccer IQ as far as where he should move to and all of those things. And I think it's obvious we are more competitive and more explosive offensively, and we also do better defensively when he's in the game. With all that being said, whatever the coach decides to do, coach, you go do that. I'm going to support you no matter what. My thing as a parent, really for him, is, hey, why did you make that decision? Not because I want you to change it. I want you to go ask the coach why he made the decision and what it is you are lacking or missing, so that you have a very clear understanding of the things that you need to work on. So anyways, yesterday I ended up getting some time with the coach, and we were chopping it up about all sorts of different things, and I didn't bring it up. He actually brought it up. He actually said, hey, I don't know if you've been wondering why your son has come off the bench or I haven't started him. And I said, I wondered a little bit. I said, but realistically speaking, I said, that is, you're the coach, right? If you believe that the other player gives us a better chance to win, or if you believe that is a better option as a starter, then you need to go ahead and make that decision. Who am I to tell you otherwise? All I will really say is, what is it that my kid is missing, or where does he need to get better, and why did you make that decision, so that we have a better understanding and know what it is we need to work towards. Anyway, so here what was his answer, and here's why I wanted to talk about it, because the reality is, what I am going to tell you about his particular situation, and I know we're talking about soccer, really applies to everything in your life. It applies to your job, it applies to your marriage, it applies to you being a dad or a mom. It literally applies to everything that you're gonna do, even outside of sports, which is why I think sports is such an important part, especially for a young man, really men and women, but for a young man specifically, really is important. I believe every young man should play some sort of sport. So anyway, and here's what the coach said. He says, well, I believe that your son gives us a better chance, right? I believe he's faster, all of the things I talked about, right? He's faster, he's got better soccer IQ, he's got a better leg, he makes his runs are better, like everything that he does on the field is just better than the other player. And I said, okay, so if it is all of those things, and I pretty much had a pretty good idea of what the answer was and why he replaced him, by the way, because I believe my son struggles with that. But his answer was, although all of that is true, here's why the other player is starting in front of him right now. 2 things really. Lately, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, for whatever the reason, he's decided that when he comes to practice, he is not practicing at a level 10. He's decided that practice doesn't need to be a level 10. He's decided that for whatever the reason, he's going to practice at a level 5. In other words, he is just going through the motions, and he is not practicing with the intensity, the attitude, and the effort of a starting player, right? So I'll repeat that again. He is not practicing with the attitude, intensity, and effort of a starting player. He is practicing like he is a bench player. Even though he's better than a bench player, and even though he was the starter, he's not practicing like he's the starter, right? So that's number 1. And then number 2, he's inconsistent. When he is playing at his best, and even a little bit under his best, so let's call it a level 10 as his best, even when he comes in and plays at a level 10, even at a level 9, he is better than the other player that I am starting now. Here's the problem. When he comes to play, he plays at a level 10 sometimes, and sometimes he comes in again with the attitude, effort, and intensity of a level 5 player. Even though he has the capability of being level 10, because we've already seen what his level 10 is, because he's played at level 10, he is inconsistent with giving us the level 10. Sometimes he comes in and plays at a level 5. The other player, even though he can't get to that, his level 10 is not the same as your kid's level 10. What the other kid gives me is he pretty much plays at level 7 and 8 all the time. So his ceiling is not as high, but he plays at 7 and 8 all the time. He never dips down to a level 5 or a level 4. He always plays at a level 7 and a level 8. In other words, he is consistently where he needs to be at whatever his top level is. He plays that consistent. I never have to worry. So again, pretty simple, right? I don't care who you are and how talented you are. So how does it apply to areas outside of soccer? I know we're talking about soccer, but how does it apply to areas outside of soccer in your life, in your day-to-day life, no matter what you're doing? Whether it's your business, whether it's your job, whether you work for somebody, whether it's you as a husband, you as a wife, you as a parent, right? Here is the underlying truth, okay? You cannot come do the things, right, that you're doing on a daily basis. You cannot come and be a parent or a husband or a wife and know what it's like to be at a level 10 in those things in your life and have the inconsistency at times to decide that you are not going to be that level 10 person. You are going to decide that today you're going to be a level 5 husband, or today you're going to be a level 5 player, or today you're going to be a level 5 wife, or you're going to be a level 5 father. It doesn't work that way, right? If we know what your level 10 is, that is ultimately your goal, right? And I'll even go a step further, and this is probably going to be an outtake that is probably not very popular, I would say. So here's the unpopular outtake. I don't even care what is happening in a day. I'm not telling you that you have to wake up every day and be like, hey, I feel like a level 10 player today in life. I'm gonna be honest, 80% of the time, you're gonna wake up and you're not gonna feel like a level 10 player. You're tired. It's cold outside. You had a bad day yesterday. You know what you need to do today. You know all of the things that are gonna get thrown at you today as a dad, as a mom, as a husband, right? As a father, as a business owner, as an employee, whatever that may be. So you inherently don't feel like a level 10, you feel like a level 5. That doesn't mean that you show up like a level 5. At the end of the day, there is always somebody beneath you or beside you or next to you that is looking for an opportunity to take what you have. And I mean that across the board. I know it sounds terrible, but yes, if you are married, you don't stop trying every morning or every day, right? Guess what? Not that it's okay. I believe marriage is a sanctity that needs to be respected. I don't particularly believe in divorce. I've been divorced, and again, we'll make a video about that on what led to that. But at the end of the day, I believe that, hey, guess what? You need to come every day if you're a husband, and you need to perform at a level 10 husband attitude, right? You need to treat every day like you are dating that woman, like there is a line of men outside the door to come take what you have. Okay, that is the attitude you need to have. So back to my son, guess what? He deserves to get benched. I don't like it. It's painful. I hate the fact that he's going through that. I hate the fact that he's went through all of these trainings and practices to see another player start over him that, again, in my opinion, he's better than, and the coach has already said he's better than. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is that you have full control of that, and you decided to come to practice with the effort, intensity, and attitude of a bench player. And you decided to start some games with the effort, attitude, and intensity of a bench player. So guess what? Now you are a bench player because you're acting like one. And you don't get to start only because, hey, this kid's got talent and he could do these things. And he does them sometimes. You don't get to start for that. You get to go sit on the bench. And you get to really get into thought and into your thoughts in your brain about why it is you're sitting on the bench. You want to be an A player. You want to be a starter. You want to not sit on the bench, right? You want to not go through all that pain. Stop acting like a bench player in life, in general. Stop acting like a bench player. You want to be a starter and an A player? Then go act like one. Go do the things that an A player does. Go do the things that a starter does. Go make the sacrifices that a starter does. All of those things matter. And the reality is that although we're talking about soccer, again, this translates to everything that you're going to do in your life. You want to be an A player? Go do the things that an A player does. Anyways, with that being said, hopefully this video has been valuable. Hopefully the message has struck something. If you're going through something like that, understand if you want to be an A player, you got to do the things that A players do. If you come out in your life or in your sport or whatever that may be and you want to act like a bench player, chances are you're still a bench player, unfortunately. And I know that hurts, but unfortunately, that is just the way it works, and that is the way life works. Because again, life doesn't really owe you anything. You need to attack life with that intensity, attitude, and effort of an A player in order to become the A player that you want to be. Anyways, with that being said, once again, I really appreciate your time. And like I say every time on the closing videos, remember, God is your guide. He is not your ride. Be willing to do the things every day that are going to get you to the place where you want to be, and that are ultimately going to make you become the person and the best version of yourself every single day. With that being said, I really appreciate you guys. Peace.